So, the NBA All-Star reserves were just announced. Let's start in the Western Conference. Just a reminder, the starters were Steph Curry, John Morant, Andrew Wiggins, LeBron James, and Nikola Jokic. And the reserves that were just announced were Devin Booker, Luka Doncic, Rudy Gobert, Draymond Green, Donovan Mitchell, Chris Paul, and Karl Anthony Towns. So, for the reserves, I thought the assistant coaches, who are the people who vote on this, got it right. Devin Booker and Chris Paul both having great seasons for the Suns, who have by far the best record in the league, so they both deserved it. Luka, obviously a great player. No doubt that he deserves it. Even after a slow start, he's really turned it on, and the Mavs have turned it on a bit too. Gobert, obviously a very impactful defender. I think he deserved to make it. Donovan Mitchell, very skilled guard, also deserved to make it. Draymond Green, his impact on the Warriors defensively. His stats don't jump out of you, but, he's won championships. We all know how good he is. And finally, Karl Anthony Towns, who I was happy he made it because he was the last pick and I worried he wasn't. But I think when you look at the numbers, he's averaging, I actually don't have it in front of me, but like almost 25 points a game. He's such a good shooter. He's such a good offensive player. He's improved defensively. Still not, I wouldn't say a good defender, but not a terrible defender like he was before. So I think for the reserves, they definitely got it right. People have been talking about snubs. I think DeJounte Murray would be the guy who was the closest. He's only a few stats away from averaging a triple-double. The Spurs aren't very good, but it's hard to say that that's his fault. For the reserves, I would have gone the same way, but if I could choose, I would say Wiggins is not an all-star, and I would have chose DeJounte Murray over him, just because I feel like the Warriors, they've slowed down a little bit, and I think they only deserve 2 all-stars, and it'd be Steph and Draymond from them. But luckily, well, I wouldn't say luckily, but Draymond Green will not be playing in the All-Star game due to injury, so there will be an injury replacement selected by the commissioner, Adam Silver, and I think DeJounte Murray definitely deserves that because he's been really good. He, what he can do filling up the stat sheet with his rebounds and his assists and the steals he gets, he's been absolutely crazy this year, so yeah, he deserves it. Okay, moving over to the Eastern Conference, I had no problems with the starters. I thought they got it exactly right with Durant, Giannis, Embiid, and then Trae Young and DeMar DeRozan in the backcourt. The reserves were going to be controversial because there's so many people. You could only choose 7 reserves, and at least 10, 11, 12 guys had a really good case, but they went with Jimmy Butler, Darius Garland, James Harden, Zach LaVine, Chris Middleton, Jason Tatum, and Fred VanVleet. So my biggest problem would be Middleton. I don't think he really deserved it. I looked at his numbers. They're all right. They're about like 20, 21 points a game. Okay efficiency, not as good as previous seasons. He's played like 41 games. If I thought Drew Holiday deserved to make the All-Star game over him because even though he's averaging maybe 1 or 2 less points a game, he's averaging more assists. He's actually shooting better from 3. He's shooting 39% from 3, Drew Holiday, which is his career high. And he's a lot better defensively. I think he's one of the best defensive players in the league, where Middleton is just an above-average defender. As for the other reserves, Jimmy Butler deserved it. Darius Garland, I was happy to see him in. Obviously, the Cavs are such a great story, being in the top 5 in the Eastern Conference this year with a chance at the number 1 seed, even with all the injuries they've had. And because at the start of the season, when you talked about the Cavs, people were thinking they're not even going to make the playoffs. So to be this good, a lot of credit to Darius Garland. Zach LaVine, probably the easiest reserve to select. He's been really good for the Bulls, who are the number 1 seed. Fred VanVleet, I was very happy to see when he made it because he's been so good for the Raptors. He's carried them through stretches where they've had so many injuries, and now they're just turning it on. But with VanVleet, some of the deep threes he's been hitting, how good he is defensively at his size is very, very impressive, and he's just so important to the Raptors. Definitely deserve to make it. And Tatum, yeah, I think the Celtics playing a bit better recently and Tatum playing a bit better recently definitely helped them out because, before when you looked at it and the Celtics were at the back end of the play-in and it wasn't looking great, you thought, maybe he doesn't deserve it, but they've turned it on recently. His numbers are great as always. And then there's James Harden, who obviously the numbers they're still really good, but it just not, I feel like it's hard to reward him when he's had such a poor season, coming into the season out of shape. He cost the Nets a lot of games early on. And then recently he hasn't played well either. I think like when you look at the numbers, he still has a really good case. But the Nets, they're the 6th seed right now. Do they really deserve 2 All-Stars? I mean, it's tough to say. I think maybe you could argue he makes it in just because of the stats. But yeah, that's one where I knew he was going to make it because obviously it's James Harden, but he really hasn't had that great a season. Again, Kevin Durant won't play in the All-Star game, so there will be an injury replacement. And it's tough because the East has quite a few snubs. I already mentioned Drew Holiday, who I thought should have made it instead of Chris Middleton. But then after that, it's a tough decision for the injury replacement between someone like LaMelo Ball or Miles Bridges or Jared Allen or even Pascal Siakam. There's lots of good candidates. Ultimately, for the injury replacement, it'd be tough. I don't think you can go Drew Holiday just because I don't think the Bucks deserves 3 All-Stars. I would go with Jared Allen because he's been so good for Cleveland, massive part of them defensively, and then offensively, he's been a really good role guy. Just a really good player, someone you obviously love to have on your team, who plays hard and makes an impact on both ends of the court. And because I think the Cavs, as I mentioned earlier, with all the injuries they've gone through, probably deserve 2 All-Stars. So yeah, overall, I thought this wasn't bad. I think the problem is in the East. Chris Middleton is my biggest problem. I just feel like Drew Holiday has been better, but the assistant coaches love him, obviously. I thought they got it right in the West. Hopefully, DeJounte Murray is the injury replacement. And then, yeah. So anyways, thanks for watching. Leave a like and subscribe.